Good morning and welcome to First Unitarian Society. My name is Roger Birchhausen and I'm one of the ministers here. I'm joined in worship today by my colleague, Reverend Kelly Crocker, by our musical team of Drew Collins, Linda Warren, and Heather Thorpe, our video team of Daniel Carnes and Stephen Gregorius, and our preacher today, Reverend Alicia Forde. It is such a joy to welcome Alicia Forde to our pulpit today. Alicia and I work together in a continuing education committee for the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association. We really enjoyed getting to know one another in that good work. And then we became very, very close colleagues when I was serving as executive director of the UU Partner Church Council, and Alicia became the director of the Unitarian Universalist Association's International Office. We worked together to strengthen our global faith, to welcome in mutual relationship across our UU world. We worked together to deconstruct colonialism within our American Unitarian Universalist faith. Alicia is a dear friend and colleague. Thank you for saying yes to this invitation. The mission of First Unitarian Society is growing souls, connecting with one another, and embodying our Unitarian Universalist principles in our lives, in this congregation, and in the world. We are so glad to have you join us virtually this morning. We invite you to come to the coffee hour immediately following the service today. You can find information to access the coffee hour on our website, fusmadison.org. I invite you now to share in a moment of silence together, to center yourselves and bring yourselves fully into this virtual time and place we share together.
Our opening words and chalice lighting, adapted from the Reverend Laura Thompson. Across the distance, the divine spark from within me radiates, sending love to all. Across the distance, your divine spark is fuel that warms me and helps to keep my own divine spark burning. Together, we keep the flame of community burning bright. Come, let us worship.
Would you please rise in body and or spirit and sing with me hymn number 1011, Return Again. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul.
Our story today is called Julian is a Mermaid. I wonder how many of you have ever dreamt of being something else or someone else, maybe something magical. Our story today is about just that. This is a boy named Julian, and this is his abuela, and those are some mermaids. Julian loves mermaids. As he sits on the bus, Julian travels in his mind to another world, one where he becomes a mermaid. He swims through the water in a tangle of color and shape and wonder, and meets fantastical creatures along the way. Abuela pulls him back from that world. Vámonos, mijo, this is our stop. Julian and the mermaids wave goodbye. Abuela, did you see the mermaids? I saw them, mijo. Julian looks up at his abuela and says quietly, Abuela, I am also a mermaid. Once inside, Abuela tells Julian, I'm going to take a bath. You be good. Julian has a good idea. He begins to find things around the house. Some plant fronds, some flowers. What could that curtain be? With a shake and a twist and a wrap, Julian can become, oh, says Abuela. Uh-oh, thinks Julian. Julian wonders and thinks and looks in the mirror until Abuela returns. Come here, mijo, she says. From behind her back, Abuela pulls out a long strand of pearls. For me, Abuela? For you, Julian. Now, as a mermaid with a beautiful strand of pearls, Julian and Abuela head outside. Where are we going? You'll see, says Abuela. As they turn a corner, mermaids, whispers Julian. Like you, mijo. Let's join them. And they do. I invite you now into this time of giving and receiving, where we give freely and generously to this offering, which sustains and strengthens the First Unitarian Society and our work in the world. You will see on your screen that you can donate directly from our website, fusmadison.org. You will also see our text to give information. We thank you for your generosity and your faith in this life we create together.
What is worship if not a sacred celebration, a moment of shaping worth, of return, of reconnection, that punctuates the end of one week and beginning of another? I am grateful to be in this space, this holy pause with you. Thanks to my colleague and dear friend, Reverend Roger, for the invitation, and to Reverend Kelly and Dan for creating this worshipful space with me. Friends, I am honored to be sharing in worship with you. It is good to be together. It is good to be together on this day, Father's Day, this time set aside for honoring the fathers and father figures in our lives, for remembering the ways they've shaped us, nurtured us, journeyed with us. It is a day that invites us to honor the fathers and father figures who've passed, leaving legacies for us to embrace or make sense of. And it's never that straightforward. For some of us, this is a complicated day, isn't it? One that holds grief, loss, maybe a sense of abandonment and neglect, and other very real feelings about fathers and father figures in our lives. All of it, all the complicated, messy, sweet feelings are welcome in this space. To be human is to wrestle with the joys and sorrows that life hands us, and to find the companions who will wrestle in love with us. My wrestlings encompass the reality that yesterday was Juneteenth, or Freedom Day, and Congress approved a bill to make it a federal holiday, an important act. And I find myself thinking about the hundreds and thousands of Black, brown, and Indigenous adolescents, adults, and elders who are caught in America's carceral system, a system that disproportionately imprisons BIPOC men and women, cis and trans BIPOC men and women. A system that steals lives, souls from communities and families. And so on this day, I remember the fathers who find themselves locked in prison cells. I remember the fathers who mourn their children, captives of the state. I remember the children who perhaps yearn for and mourn the absence of their fathers who have been savagely consumed by the state. I remember the men, women, and communities for whom freedom has not yet been realized. Folks who were never meant to survive. In reflecting on this most unusual 15 plus months, during which vulnerable frontline and essential workers, the majority of whom were Black, Indigenous, and people of color, were hailed as heroes, while afforded little protection, health benefits, compensation, flexible work schedules, childcare, the basics. In reflecting, I keep asking myself, what is it that I want to say to the Black, Indigenous, and people of color, the BIPOC folks in my life? This has been a difficult time. It has held isolation, grief, tremendous losses of loved ones, of relationships, of what was, what might have been. The social and political oppressions and pressures we face have been amplified again and again. Already pushed to the margins, many BIPOC folks have been further marginalized. I watch my dear niece and nephew, young adults, yet babies really, growing up in this cultural context that deliberately refuses to appreciate who they are and how they are in the world. I witness the ways in which they internalize and struggle with the minimal expectations that this world has of them. How my niece works twice as hard for much less affirmation and access. And this is particularly true for my sweet nephew, who has yet to find his place in the world. How he, just on the cusp of adulthood, struggles with constantly receiving messages from the world that he will not make it. I witness how often he lapses into believing that his life is not worth much of anything. His life does not matter, so why bother? There is so much despair in that one small question he asks. Why bother? what I want for them, what I long for my niece, my nephew, and other BIPOC folks is the lived experience of taking up space. Remember Julian from our story earlier today? And how that beautiful brown mermaid eventually took up space? What I want is the lived experience of celebration, of soul care, of rest, a deep honoring of our exquisite selves made in the image of all that is holy, just as we are, just as we are. In his sermon on June 6th, Reverend Roger offered these words. He said, "I believe that every soul is sacred. Therefore, every soul deserves the opportunity to flourish. Every soul has a basic right to food, healthcare, shelter, equality, and love. Deserves to be treated with dignity and to have the soul's inherent beauty recognized, celebrated, and loved." Amen to that. Every soul deserves to be treated with dignity and to have the soul's inherent beauty recognized, celebrated, and loved. Come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed, wrote the poet Lucille Clifton. Come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. And there is the rub, that every soul deserves the opportunity to flourish. And for some of us, Black, brown, indigenous, people of color, every day, a political system anchored in white supremacy threatens our survival in minor and significant ways. I think about my nephew. Every day, I want to say to him, every day, we have to choose to answer the question. Every day, we have to choose the answer to the question, why bother? And to do so by centering our own needs for care, for tending to our souls, our hearts, our bodies. This is by no means easy. Our soul care itself is an act of defiance, for it furthers our survival, our thriving, which we were not meant to do. Our soul care is its own protest against a culture more concerned with preserving whitewashed versions of history than it is with making space for pedagogical interventions like critical race theory that illuminates who we are as a nation and offers tools for how we might come to a place of reconciliation and healing. Our soul care is an act of political disruption, redirecting our energies from maintaining what is and putting those energies toward creating communities. As the feminist philosopher Sarah Ahmed says, creating those communities assembled out of the experiences of being shattered. In our care for ourselves, quoting Sarah Ahmed again, in our care for ourselves, we reassemble ourselves through the ordinary, everyday, and often painstaking work of looking after ourselves, looking after each other. We practice returning again and again to our very selves and to each other. So to my nephew, to my dear BIPOC folks, it will not be easy to embrace centering your own souls, to embrace centering those in your communities. It will not be easy to pause and care for yourselves in ways that invite scrutiny under a capitalist gaze. Doing that which is not expected of you, not usually available to you, well, it might just make you tremble with fear. And Audre Lorde ends a litany for survival, reminding us, when the sun rises, we are afraid it might not remain. When the sun sets, we are afraid it might not rise in the morning. When our stomachs are full, we are afraid of indigestion. When our stomachs are empty, we are afraid we may never eat again. When we are loved, we are afraid love will vanish. When we are alone, we are afraid love will never return. When we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard nor welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak, remembering we were never meant to survive. We were never meant to survive. And James Baldwin tells us in a letter to his nephew so many decades ago, that if we had not loved each other, if we Black folks had not loved each other, none of us would have survived. And now you must survive, dear nephew. You must survive, my BIPOC community, because we love you. And for you to survive and thrive, every day must hold a celebration of your worth, of your soul, of your magnificence. And you must be bothered enough to remember that the very existence of your body is a protest. Your joy is a protest. Your answering yes to life, to love, to truth is an act of political dissent. And you do not do it alone, but always in community. Always with the legacies of those who preceded you, holding you up. And you, the gathered congregation, can be a part of that community. You can be a part of ensuring that every day, you choose to contribute to the work being done to dismantle a system designed to destroy the freedoms of your BIPOC neighbors. Folks here in your midst, and folks you will never meet. Freedom and celebration of that freedom must be grounded in justice. It will take all of us doing our soul work to make it so. So may it be. So may it be.
Each week we gather, bringing the fullness of our lives with us into this time. All the experiences that heal and harm, that impact us and those we love. We share them here, knowing they are held in community. This week, Anne asks us to light a candle in gratitude for the generous orchid sponsors who continue to brighten our worship services with the vibrant pulpit blooms. Their constancy reminds us of the beauty that is all around us wherever we are. And I light a candle in recognition of Juneteenth. We celebrate the emancipation of enslaved people while we mourn the history that created it. We celebrate the pride and the joy of this moment while we mourn the oppression that still exists. And I light a candle for Ed Swanson, father of Janet Swanson, who passed away on Wednesday evening. Ed lived a life of integrity, compassion, and pure joy. He loved his family and his friends, and he appreciated every moment that he had here in this life. He is cherished by all who had the privilege of sharing his days, and he is deeply missed. We send our love to Janet and to her family. And today, on this Father's Day, we take a moment to recognize all those who serve as that father figure in our lives. We light this candle for all those who taught us what they knew and forgave us when we got it wrong. Those who wanted to teach us but left too soon or simply did not know how to teach at all. Those who let us break their binoculars and steal their shirts. Those who taught us why it was wrong to break and to steal. We recognize every dad who tried to understand their child, whether it was their clothing choices or their new hairdo. Every dad who suddenly realized that their child might be right and was willing to listen. And every dad who honestly believed they were making the best choices they could. We honor every dad who screwed it up, got it wrong, tried again, got it right, and often went from being the dumbest soul alive to the pinnacle of brilliance and back again, all in one day, according to their children. These are our dads. We recognize and honor today all those who taught us what it meant to be honest, even if it was embarrassing, to tell the truths and admit our faults, all those who taught us to be human. We recognize also the ones who could not teach us these things because they did not know it themselves, but who hoped and prayed that we would do better than they did. Today, we recognize and honor all those in our lives, all the ones who lived into this role. Birth fathers, adoptive fathers, foster dads, grandfathers, uncles, stepfathers, moms, grandmothers, aunts, sometimes doing it all alone. Those dear friends who are willing to take on this role in our lives or the lives of our children. All those who have been there for us or tried to be there, no matter what. They are because of us and we are because of them. May we recognize and honor these holy connections wherever they are found, this day and always. Blessed be, and amen.
Would you please rise in body and or spirit to sing with me hymn number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath. Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
Our closing words today are adapted from the Reverend Cynthia Landrum. Dear ones, we leave this gathered community, but we do not leave our connection, our concerns, our soul care, our soul work, our care for each other. Our service to each other, to the world, and to our faith continues until we are together again, friends. Be strong, be well, be true, be loving. So may it be. Amen.